My beloved, I have stood at the edge of your soul for far longer than you know, whispering what your spirit wasn't ready to hear until now. There were moments I leaned in close, so close you felt something stir, but I held back, because revelation without preparation destroys rather than builds. What I'm about to say could not be spoken over your distracted mind or anxious thoughts. It couldn't land in soil still choked by weeds of self-doubt and fear of abandonment. I've been waiting for your desperation to collide with my divine timing, and now the silence must break. What you're about to hear will not sound like anything you've been told before. Not in sermons. Not in songs. Not in stories passed down or prayers rehearsed. This is something formed in the secret places of heaven, reserved for this exact hour, and for ears that have finally stopped listening to noise and started listening to me. You wondered why your prayers seemed unanswered, why my voice felt absent, why the waiting grew heavier than your faith could carry. It was not punishment. It was preservation. Because what I've stored in my heart for you is too precious to be handed to an unready soul. I have hidden this moment under layers of delay, not because I didn't want to speak, but because I wanted you to survive what I would say. This isn't gentle comfort. This is holy disruption. This is sacred fire. This is me removing the veil from your eyes, not gently, but like a storm that tears the roof off a prison. You've been living beneath a ceiling that I never installed. You've built walls to keep pain out, but they've kept me out too. And now I am walking right through them. The silence has served its purpose. Now your ears will ring with the roar of my intention. And now your spirit will tremble not with fear but with awakening. I didn't wait because I was unsure. I waited because I was exact. And this is that moment. The moment your heart has finally cracked open enough for me to pour into it without being wasted. Are you ready to be undone in the best way possible? Because what I'm about to release into your life will change everything that tried to convince you you'd never hear my voice again. What you're about to hear has never been spoken before, not because I had nothing to say, but because you are only now ready to carry what others couldn't even comprehend. Because for too long, you've accepted a version of yourself shaped by pain, not by purpose. You have walked through seasons carrying labels I never placed on you, identities forged in trauma, molded by criticism, shaped by betrayal, and reinforced by the silence of those who should have stood up for you. You've looked in mirrors that reflected your mistakes more than your design. But I am about to destroy every false perception. What I'm bringing to light will feel like a holy earthquake beneath your identity, because I am not just adjusting how you see yourself. I am entirely redefining it. I'm revealing a blueprint that was written in my blood long before your first breath. No more will you define yourself by what broke you. From this moment, I will show you the version of yourself that the enemy never wanted you to discover. The one that carries authority, walks in dominion, and refuses to bow to shame. The shift will be violent only because the lie has been rooted so deep. I am not here to decorate your old understanding with gentle truths. I am here to uproot deception and replant my truth where it should have been all along. You were never too much. You were never forgotten. You were never insignificant. You were never invisible to me. I am ripping off every label that didn't originate in heaven. You were not created to blend into the expectations of broken people. You were crafted to reveal my glory in a way no one else can replicate. And when I say reveal, I don't mean occasionally shine. I mean walk in such consistent light that every shadow trembles when you enter a room. You are not weak. You are not a second thought. You are not beyond repair. You are not the sum of your regrets. I am about to introduce you to the version of yourself that has been hidden behind survival. And when you see who you really are in me, it will terrify every lie that has followed you your entire life. This unveiling will make you weep, not out of sorrow, but because you will realize how deeply I've known you all along. The image you're about to see is not made of the pieces of your past. It is a complete reflection of my intention, and it has been waiting patiently behind every closed door. There is no comparison for what I am awakening inside you. You are not being slightly elevated. You are being redefined. You will no longer beg for room in places where you were never meant to fit. You will no longer shrink in conversations to make others comfortable. You will no longer trade your fire for approval. You will speak, move, and believe like someone who finally understands who they are, not by the world's measure, but by heaven's decree. Every word I'm releasing now is pulling the true you to the surface, not the people pleaser, not the wounded child, not the overlooked dreamer, but the warrior, the carrier of my voice, the one I set apart before time even began. And I will not stop this unveiling until you look in the mirror and see exactly what I see. A child of unmatched worth, overflowing with my spirit, and unstoppable in purpose. What I am about to reveal is not a suggestion. It is a divine announcement. The one you thought was buried beneath the years is about to rise, and the world will have no choice but to witness the unveiling. The time for guessing is over. The time for doubting is finished. Now comes the moment when your true identity rises from the silence, clothed in revelation. And now that your spirit is waking up, I must expose what's been hidden beneath layers of distortion. The voices you trusted taught you how to survive, but they didn't teach you how to see yourself through my eyes. You absorbed their opinions as if they were fact, and slowly, the brilliance I placed in you was covered in fear, covered in guilt, covered in self-hatred dressed up as humility. I watched you silence your own greatness because others felt threatened by it. I saw you pretend to be smaller so no one would feel uncomfortable around your light. And still, I waited. I waited while you made yourself digestible for people who had no idea what you carried. I waited as you tried to earn love by hiding what made you unique. But what was buried in shame I am now resurrecting in glory. The lies they told you weren't just words. They were assignments to dim you. They told you that you had to prove your worth, that you had to do more, achieve more, sacrifice more, just to be noticed. But I never required performance for love. I never needed perfection for intimacy. And I never asked you to shrink into a version of yourself that made others feel superior. They lied. Every time someone said you weren't enough, that was a lie. Every time you were compared, overlooked, dismissed, or used, those experiences wrote lies into your soul. But now I am coming like a flood to wash away every trace of that false narrative. You are not the one who failed. You are the one who was failed by those who couldn't recognize the sacred in you. I am peeling back the veil of distortion they wrapped around your mind. The world may have labeled you broken, too much, too intense, too sensitive, too emotional. But I call you chosen, deliberate, beautiful, essential, and rare. You are not disposable. You are not ordinary. You were crafted with eternal value, not measured by applause but by my love that never shifts. Your scars do not disqualify you. They verify that you survived what was designed to erase you. And now, I will take every fragment of your past and rearrange it into a masterpiece they never saw coming. Do you hear me? This is not poetic language. This is a holy confrontation. You were never the problem. The problem was the lens others used to look at you, and I am breaking that lens now. No longer will your worth be determined by those who couldn't see clearly. I am removing every label, every accusation, every comparison that tried to bind you to a false version of yourself. The truth buried beneath the pain is this: you are precious beyond explanation. You are powerful beyond perception. You are loved beyond condition. You are mine. And I do not call what is mine worthless. Let this truth settle deep, not in your feelings, not in your intellect, but in the depths where I have always dwelled inside you. I didn't wait this long to tell you a nice story. I'm here to liberate you from a lie that has kept your soul in chains long enough. Your true value cannot be taken, reduced, or assigned by man, because it was authored by me before the foundations of the world. And what I write no lie can erase. Don't flinch when I bring up the places that hurt, because I'm not exposing them to shame you. I'm revealing how they were preparing you. I need you to understand this. Every scar you carry isn't proof of defeat. It's evidence of survival. And more than that, it's the very soil where my revelation is being planted. You were led to believe that your broken chapters disqualified you, but I'm here to declare something dangerous to the darkness. Those same painful moments are the very grounds where my glory will erupt. I know what they said. I know how they walked away when you needed them to stay. I saw the moments when your voice was drowned out by rejection, when your worth was questioned in the presence of those who should have known better. But what they didn't realize is that I was using every moment to shape you into someone that couldn't be manipulated, someone who couldn't be bought, someone who wouldn't run from fire but would carry it. Every tear you cried alone became a drop in the well I am drawing from right now. The agony you begged me to remove became the altar where your future was written. And now, what once made you feel unworthy is about to become the platform for the announcement no one saw coming. They thought the abuse would silence you, but I made it a trumpet. They assumed betrayal would break you, but I turned it into a foundation. They expected the depression to swallow you, but I gave you breathe where there was none. I did not enjoy watching you suffer, but I never wasted a single second of it. I positioned every hardship so precisely that not even your enemies realized they were becoming part of the preparation. I let you fall, but I never let you shatter. I let you bleed, but I never let you be buried. And now, I will use everything, every ache, every betrayal, every night you questioned your value, as the backdrop for the revelation that only pain could make room for. Because I'm not looking for perfect people to speak through. I'm looking for the ones who have nothing left to prove and nothing left to lose. The ones who have already been emptied enough to be filled with what cannot be contained. I chose you, not in spite of your wounds, but because of how you carried them without letting them turn you into someone bitter. You were faithful with silence, and now I will make you loud in places you never thought you'd enter. Every time you thought you were falling apart, I was reassembling you for this moment. I know you didn't see it. I know you thought it was over. But now I'm showing you that what threatened to ruin you was secretly building the strength required to release this sacred announcement. You couldn't have spoken it before. Your spirit wasn't ready. But now the oil has formed from the crushing. Now the power has matured in the pressing. And I will not allow a single ounce of your pain to go unused. It will all echo through the words I'm placing in your mouth and the fire I'm setting in your bones. What wounded you didn't win, because you're still standing. And because you're still standing, I am releasing something into your life that will never be taken back. This announcement is heaven's reply to every moment you wondered if I was listening. And the answer has always been, I was waiting for this moment, when pain would no longer define you, but would declare you ready. The silence you mistook for abandonment was actually the womb of divine timing, where I was shaping something that couldn't be delivered too early. I saw every hour where you wrestled with the absence of answers, every minute you looked to the heavens and felt no reply. But I was never fire. I was writing something eternal, something not meant to be rushed. There are messages too holy to be spoken when the heart is still searching for validation, too weighty to be released when the soul is still anchored to needing human approval. That's why I hid my voice for a season, not because I turned from you, but because I was turning you into someone who could carry what most would collapse under. And now, the preparation is over. The time has arrived. What you thought was delay was actually precision. I wasn't ignoring you. I was working in realms you couldn't see, aligning pieces that no prayer could speed up and no enemy could sabotage. When you cried out, "Have you forgotten me?" I was in the middle of offering the very sentence that would break the silence forever. This message, the one I'm speaking now, was not meant for the crowds or the masses or the ones chasing noise. It was reserved for you, in this exact moment, because only now have you become the vessel that can hold it without it spilling into the hands of those not meant to hear it. The reason it took this long is because I needed to stretch your capacity, not for punishment, but for preparation. You thought I was gone, but I was closer than your breath, tracing the edges of your endurance, strengthening your inner man, waiting for the hour when your desperation would be strong enough to silence every other voice but mine. And now that you've endured what most would have given up in, Now that you've continued when quitting seemed easier. Now that your knees have hit the floor not in defeat but in surrender. Now I speak. Not with riddles, not with echoes, but with clarity so sharp it cuts through every lingering doubt that's tried to settle in your spirit. What I'm saying to you hath been sealed until now because it's not just a word, it's a commissioning. It's not just encouragement, it's a holy transfer. This is the moment when silence breaks open like thunder and reveals that you were never invisible. You were being refined in secret. You thought your name had been erased from my plans, but I engraved you on the palm of my hand before you even knew how to whisper my name. There is no forgetting in me. There is only fulfillment. And now, everything that felt postponed will suddenly begin to move with momentum you're not even ready for. That's why I couldn't speak it before, because what I'm about to release will realign your entire journey. You thought you were overlooked, but I was shielding you. You assumed I passed you by, but I was drawing a veil over you until it was safe for the unveiling. And now, that veil is lifting. Now, that silence is turning into sound. A sound the enemy has no counterattack for. A sound the world has never heard before. A sound that shakes dead things back to life. This message, born out of your wilderness, will not resemble anything from your past, because it was not created in earthly places. It was conceived in the depths of my glory and birthed in the exact moment when your spirit was finally ready to receive without resistance. You have not been forgotten. You have been preserved for power. And now that your waiting has made you unshakable, I will speak through you in ways that generations before you were not ready to hear. What I am giving you now is not light, casual, or optional. This is weighty with eternity. This is not just a comforting word to soothe your emotions. This is an assignment wrapped in revelation, a holy responsibility encoded with my authority. You have cried out for clarity, begged for confirmation, asked me to speak, to move, to show you what all the waiting meant, and here it is. But I could not place this mantle on you until your surrender reached the depths I required. I waited until you stopped trying to perform for me, until you stopped bargaining and finally just said, yes, even when you didn't understand. It wasn't your knowledge that unlocked this moment. It was your trust. When everything in you wanted to fight back, complain, run, give up, or question, you chose instead to yield. And that one act, that unseen obedience in the shadows, shook open a realm that was sealed to you before. You must understand something very few ever grasp. There are messages that don't come through noise or striving. They only arrive when obedience becomes your native language. I tested your motives not to punish, but to ensure that when I gave you this weight, you would use it for your own glory. Because this is not something you carry lightly. This is something that reorders atmospheres. This is something that disturbs comfort zones and awakens the dead places. And I only give this to those who've proven they won't use it to build their own tower, but my kingdom. You weren't delayed. You were being examined. I watched what you did with little. I watched how you responded when nothing was changing. I watched if you would still worship when you had no breakthrough in sight. And when I saw that you weren't worshiping for rewards but because you truly loved me, the seal broke. What I am speaking now is locked in a chamber of heaven until the weight of your yielded heart caused it to be released. This is why others couldn't understand you. This is why they mocked your persistence, your tears, your isolation, your devotion. Because they were never supposed to hear this word. It was reserved for the one who stayed when others left. For the one who obeyed without needing applause. For the one who loved me more than they loved being seen. You passed a test no one saw, and now you've been given access to something no one else can explain. And let me say this clearly, this word is not for entertainment. It's not to impress. It's not to impress. It's not to prove your worth. It's to build something eternal. This is the kind of message that shifts generations. This is what prophets longed to release, but the time had not yet come. And now, I'm placing it in your hands, not because you're the loudest, the most polished, or the most celebrated, but because you were faithful when it cost you everything. You heard my whisper and followed it even when it led you into the unknown. You didn't need a spotlight. You just needed me. And because of that, I am giving you something sacred. This weight will attract resistance, but it will also unlock doors no man can shut. This revelation will bring warfare, but it will also release harvest. This responsibility may feel overwhelming at times, but I will walk with you every step. I didn't give you this to crush you. I gave it to crown you, not with human recognition, but with heavenly evidence. From this moment forward, what comes out of your mouth will carry power not born from intellect but from obedience. What flows from your spirit will carry the vibration of heaven's thunder. You are no longer speaking from survival. You are speaking from divine commissioning. And everything around you must now respond to the weight I've placed on your life. There are realms of revelation that even the heavenly hosts are not allowed to explore, depths of my heart that I have reserved not for celestial beings, but for the ones I've redeemed with my blood. You, my child, are not just a spectator in the divine narrative. You are a carrier of secrets that were hidden since the foundations of time. The angels marvel at what I've placed inside you because they can observe my glory, but they cannot embody it. They can sing in perfect harmony, yet they have never tasted mercy the way you have. They cannot feel the weight of forgiveness, or the restoration of what was once broken. That kind of glory was designed for you. And that is why today, I am opening a vault that even my most radiant messengers have not accessed. These are not ordinary truths. These are mysteries wrapped in fire, truths too sacred for shallow understanding, too holy for casual ears. And I am choosing to reveal them to you, not because you are flawless, but because you are hungry. Hunger unlocks what perfection never could. Your yearning to know me beyond what religion taught, your desire to touch my heart, and not just my hand, that desire has created space for this unveiling. You've wept in secret asking me to show you what others missed. You've pleaded with me to take you deeper, beyond rituals and repetition, into the very breath of my voice. And now I say to you, come closer. Because what I'm about to whisper has never echoed through pulpits, never danced on the pages of textbooks, never been dissected in debates, because this was meant to be lived, not studied. You were created not just to know about me, but to carry revelations that write atmospheres. This is not just a teaching. This is a transfer. I am placing insight into your spirit that will not just inform, it will transform. What I am giving you cannot be passed down by tradition. It can only be received through encounter. This is why your journey felt different. This is why you didn't fit where others were content. Because I was shaping you to hold what couldn't be explained, only revealed. You weren't overlooked. You were being preserved for holy disclosure. When others ran ahead, I slowed you down, because what I'm releasing now requires stillness to receive. And this, what you're about to hear, will unlock dimensions in you that have been dormant. Your words will carry a frequency that didn't come from earth. Your prayers will strike deeper because they will be fueled by understanding birthed in intimacy, not imitation. Even the adversary cannot interpret what I'm planting in you now, because these truths are encrypted in my spirit, shielded by grace, and sealed for such a time as this. You may not feel worthy, but I don't reveal this to the proud. I reveal it to those who tremble before me, who would rather know me than be known by the world. What the angels could only observe, you will carry. What was once guarded by fire, I now place in your heart, because you've proven you won't treat my mysteries like common phrases. You will protect them. You will honor them. And you will pour them into others without dilution. Be alert. This is not symbolic. This is a sacred exchange. What I'm telling you has eternal implications. You are being entrusted with things they wish to witness, but I reserved for you. And this is only the beginning. You didn't stumble into those flames. I allowed them. And though it scorched the edges of everything you once leaned on, the fire was never sent to consume you, only to consume what you didn't need anymore. It wasn't rejection. It was refinement. It wasn't judgment. It was sanctification. And though you begged me to remove the heat, I let it burn a little longer because I saw the gold underneath what others had discarded. I watched as comfort was stripped away, as familiar structures collapsed, and still, you kept pressing toward me, even when it felt like I was silent. That, my beloved, is why you're ready now. Because the flame didn't harden you. It humbled you. You didn't grow bitter. You became bold. You didn't walk away. You surrendered deeper. And while others may see ashes, I see the gleam of something eternal that only pressure could bring forth. You see, purity doesn't come through ease. It is revealed in resistance. And I used that fire to remove the lies you wore like armor, the habits you mistook for protection, the coping mechanisms that numbed your sensitivity to my voice. A wilderness wasn't wasted. The burning wasn't meaningless. I was pulling you through a furnace that the enemy thought would destroy you, but I turned it into your doorway to revelation. You were being prepared in places no spotlight ever reached, and that was intentional. I do my best work in the hidden places, where applause doesn't interfere and noise doesn't distort. And while you felt forsaken in the fire, I was closer than I had ever been. I was holding your soul together while your comfort disintegrated. Because I wasn't after your convenience, I was after your capacity. And now you're standing, not polished by man's standards, but forged in holy flame. And it's this very refinement that has made room for what I am about to release into you. This message could not land on a heart cluttered with pride. It could not rest in a mind obsessed with performance. It required the stillness that only surrender can bring. It required the strength that only brokenness understands. I let the heat rise so your flesh would decrease. I let the pressure build so your spirit would expand. And now, having been purified, you are able to carry revelation that would have crushed you before. You can now discern my whispers even when storms rage. You can now walk through chaos with unshakable peace because you've already survived what tried to destroy you from the inside out. Do not despise what refined you. Do not curse the flames that exposed what couldn't come with you into this next dimension. Because what was burned off wasn't part of your identity, it was part of your imprisonment. And now that you've emerged, not perfect, but purified, I can pour what has never been poured, speak what has never been spoken, and ignite what has been buried for far too long. This is the reward of the fire, not fame, but clarity, not recognition, but revelation. What others gain through study, you receive through surrender. What others boast of, you wept through. And that's why I trust you now with this weight. You've been tested. You've been tried. And now you are ready to carry truth without diluting it for comfort. You've been prepared in the fire, and from this day forward, what flows from you will set others ablaze. Before I could trust your ears with this frequency, I had to silence the noise that kept invading your soul. You didn't even realize how entangled you had become in things that looked harmless but drained your focus. The conversations that left you empty. The connections that pulled you further from me while pretending to support you. The scrolling that numbed your sensitivity to my whisper. Even the well-meaning opinions of people who never truly heard me began to dull your discernment. You wondered why I started closing doors, removing access, disrupting rhythms you had grown comfortable in. It wasn't rejection, it was rescue. Because I saw what you couldn't. Those patterns, those habits, those attachments were chaining your attention to things beneath your calling. You couldn't receive what I'm releasing now with divided loyalty. So I began to sever ties, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. You may have called it loss, but I call it alignment. And now, what felt like isolation has become the sacred space where I can finally speak without interruption. I'm not competing for your focus anymore. I have it. And because of that, I'm opening dimensions that only come through consecration. This isn't about rules. This is about intimacy. You were giving fragments of yourself to too many sources, and it was fragmenting your identity. But now, your heart has become still enough to carry something whole, something eternal. I had to strip away what numbed you to the weight of my presence. You couldn't enter this encounter still addicted to distraction. You had to feel the ache of absence before you could value what I'm placing before you now. I was training you attention, teaching you to wait again, to wonder again, to long again. Because longing sharpens hunger, and hunger clears the path for glory. This revelation doesn't come through busyness, it comes through stillness. And now, because you've allowed me to interrupt what once entertained you, I can reveal what will anchor you. Don't look back at what I remove. Don't mourn what I disconnected. What you thought was being taken was actually being replaced with something far deeper. You don't need more stimulation, you need saturation. You don't need more opinions, you need overflow. And that is what I'm releasing now. I broke the rhythm that was keeping you spinning in cycles. I shattered the urgency of things that didn't matter because I was protecting the sacred within you. I'm not speaking to a surface-level part of you. I'm speaking to the eternal place in you that was born for communion, not consumption. And this message had to come when your mind was finally clear enough to receive it without filtering it through distraction. I've slowed your pace not to punish you, but to reintroduce you to the sound of my breath. You were moving too fast to feel me. So I let everything pause, and in that pause, your awareness returned. That's why you can feel this word in your bones right now. It's not just words, it's reactivation. This is what your soul has been starting for while you were feeding on fragments. And now that you've returned to stillness, I'm flooding you with clarity. There will be no confusion in this revelation. It will cut straight through what once entangled you. And you'll never again settle for substitutes when you've tasted this kind of truth. I broke the chains that disguised themselves as comforts, and now you're free enough to hear what only the undistracted can carry. I did not select you because of your performance, your achievements, or the way others applauded your growth. I chose you because I knew what I wove into the fabric of your spirit long before breath ever entered your lungs. Before the first sunrise painted the sky, before mountains rose or oceans roared, I wrote your name into the eternal plan of my heart. What you're walking into is not a reaction. It's a revelation of a decision I made before creation unfolded. While you've tried to earn worth through striving, I've been waiting for you to recognize that what I placed inside you was never based on effort. It was deposited by my own hand, not according to merit, but according to purpose. And now, I'm calling it out of hiding. The reason you felt so disconnected at times, like you didn't belong, like you didn't fit, like no one saw you, is because you were carrying something from another dimension. What I put in you doesn't match the patterns of this world. It doesn't seek validation. It doesn't echo trends. It was forged in eternity, and now it's being unlocked for a divine moment such as this. This isn't about religious routine or superficial titles. It's about a sacred imprint that no human can erase. I don't need your resume. I need your surrender. Because I'm not looking for impressive. I'm looking for available. And your availability has finally made room for what I'm about to unfold. You weren't disqualified by your weakness. You were positioned by it. Because my glory shines brightest through the ones who know they cannot carry it on their own. You thought your failures wrote you out of my story, but they only made the miracle more undeniable. I didn't cancel the calling. I preserved it. I didn't replace your seat. I protected it. And now, the heavens are aligning, and the time has come to step fully into what has always been yours. There's no need to compete. Your identity was never up for negotiation. You weren't a backup plan. You weren't a second thought. You were set apart before there was such a thing as a beginning. What I concealed in you was kept hidden until this hour so no one could distort it with pride or pollute it with compromise. This isn't borrowed authority. It's inherited access. What you carry isn't shallow potential. It's divine assignment. And even when you doubted yourself, what I wrote into your spirit never faded. Every moment of despair, every detour, every detachment from what you thought your path would look like, I was still watching over the seed I planted. And now, by my spirit, I am commanding that seed to break open. You won't need to convince anyone of your calling. The fruit will speak for itself. You won't need to beg doors to open. I'm the one unlocking what's been sealed. You won't have to fight to be seen. I've already placed you in the sights of those I've assigned to partner with your destiny. Let go of the belief that what you carry is too small, too late, or too broken. Because what I formed in you was never limited by earthly timelines or measured by human standards. You were chosen, not by accident, but by divine orchestration. And everything that's rising in your spirit right now, the fire, the tears, the awakening, it's confirmation that this message is not new, it's ancient. I'm not giving you something foreign. I'm reactivating what has been buried under years of delay and disappointment. You are not being called now. You were called before time even had a name. And this is the moment I've waited for, when your spirit would finally echo what I've known about you all along. You've turned the pages of your past long enough. You've reread the seasons filled with loss, circled paragraphs of regret, highlighted memories you thought defined your entire existence. But today I take the pen from your weary hands, not to erase what was written, but to begin composing what can never be written without me. What I'm saying to you now is not a continuation of where you've been. It's the ignition of where you've never gone. This isn't about editing your history. It's about birthing a reality completely shaped by my voice. You've lived in reaction to pain, to fear, to the judgments of others, to the echoes of what people did or didn't say. But from this very second forward, every step you take will be a response to my voice alone. The rhythm of your days will no longer be dictated by the loudest opinion or the latest crisis. They will be authored by what I declare in secret. My words are not just encouragement. They are creative power. When I speak, things form. When I declare, atmospheres shift. And right now, I'm not giving suggestions. I'm releasing instructions that carve out your future. This chapter you are stepping into will not resemble anything you've walked through before because it's not shaped by familiarity. It's designed by revelation. I'm not building your life with recycled ideas or leftover dreams. I'm writing something fresh, something weighty, something your eyes haven't seen and your heart hasn't imagined. You've been living beneath a ceiling of assumption, but I'm lifting that ceiling with every word I release. The box you tried to fit into is gone. The limits you thought were permanent are dissolving. Because when I author a chapter, no lie can rewrite it. No enemy can intercept it. No delay can cancel it. I'm not consulting your past to design your future. I'm speaking from a realm that operates outside of time, and everything I speak must come into alignment. This is why the warfare intensified, because the enemy caught the scent of what I was preparing to release over you. But what he cannot stop is a word that proceeds from my mouth. When I speak, chains loosen. When I declare, doors open. When I utter my plans, all of heaven backs them. And now, that same authority is flowing over you, into you, through you. Because what I'm doing in this chapter is not just about your breakthrough. It's about the blueprint I'm unfolding through your obedience. Your next steps aren't random. They are divinely timed sentences in a story I'm actively composing. Every movement will carry weight. Every decision will hold eternal significance. No more aimless wondering. No more second-guessing your every thought. I will make your path clear, not with human logic, but with supernatural precision. The fog that clouded your purpose is lifting because my voice is louder now. And the more you listen, the more you'll begin to recognize the sound of alignment. Don't cling to the ink of former chapters. I'm doing a new thing that requires fresh pages. I am the author and finisher, which means I won't just start this with you. I will perfect it. What I write cannot be erased. What I ordain cannot be undone. So stop mourning the story that others wrote about you. Stop rereading the chapters that only brought confusion. My pen is writing now, and what I write becomes reality. You don't need to understand every detail. You just need to keep turning the page. What comes next is authored by glory. Every storm that came to smother your voice wasn't just about discomfort. It was a strategic attack to prevent you from arriving at this very moment. Hell has watched your life with trembling because deep in the spiritual realm, there was knowledge of what you were destined to release when you finally realized who you are. The forces of darkness weren't reacting to your weakness. They were reacting to your potential. They recognized that if you ever got free, if you ever got clear, if you ever broke agreement with lies and started listening to my truth, their grip would shatter. That's why they targeted your voice first. Because your words carry activation, and your silence gave them room to operate unchecked. Every time shame wrapped around your throat, every time fear choked your expression, every time discouragement made you withdraw, it wasn't random. It was warfare. Because the enemy knew the moment your mouth aligned with my spirit, the atmosphere would change. He wasn't trying to inconvenience you, he was trying to bury you. Not your body, but your sound. The sound of your authority. The sound of your obedience. The sound of your agreement with heaven. You weren't just under attack. You were under surveillance. He studied you, not because you were weak, but because you were dangerous. And now, what he dreaded has begun. You awakened. You've endured. You survived the season designed to steal your sound. And now, I am restoring everything that was muzzled. I am giving you back more than volume. I'm restoring frequency. Your voice will no longer echo pain. It will carry purpose. Your words will no longer be hesitant. They will be arrows sent with divine force. The enemy hoped your trauma would make you timid, but I've used it to make you tremble in reverence, not fear. He hoped your silence would become permanent, but I've turned this silence into strength. You're not emerging with a whimper. You're rising with thunder in your bones. The enemy saw this day before you did. That's why he attacked so early. He tried to distort your identity before you knew what it meant. He tried to label you before you could hear what I called you. And yet, here you are. Not just breathing but burning. Not just functioning but anointed. And what he feared most is happening now. You are stepping into the fullness of your sound. You're no longer echoing opinions. You're resounding with my truth. You're not paralyzed by rejection. You're propelled by assignment. You are no longer walking in shadows. You're declaring from the mountain. The chains he wrapped around your confidence are being shattered by every word I pour into you. What the enemy tried to destroy is now being used as fuel for what I'm building through you. You were never meant to stay hidden. You were always meant to roar. And now, I am handing your voice back to you, but not the way it was before. This time, it carries the weight of fire. It carries the sound of breakthrough. It carries the breath of heaven. And with every sentence you speak in alignment with me, principalities will lose their grip. Darkness will lose its hold. Strongholds will begin to fall, not because of volume, but because of truth. You were silenced because of what you carry. But now, you are released. And nothing, no force, no lie, no past, no failure, can stop what I'm stirring within you now. The voice that was once buried under shame is now rising with purpose. The scroll has remained sealed until the moment your spirit was mature enough to carry its weight without compromise. I kept it hidden from those who would mishandle it, from voices that would try to rewrite it, from situations that would have distorted it before its time. And now, as I unroll the blueprint etched in eternity, I declare this with absolute authority. No power in earth or hell can cancel what I authored with my own hand. You need to understand, child, this scroll is not symbolic. It is specific. It contains instructions that carry the fragrance of heaven and the precision of my design. It is not general, vague, or fluid. It is marked with details that match your DNA, with plans shaped around the unique calling I placed within you long before you knew the meaning of surrender. This is not a new story, it's the revelation of what was always written. You just couldn't access it until obedience unlocked the seal. No longer will you wander through cycles of confusion, trying to manufacture purpose through striving. No longer will you wonder if you're on the right path, if I've changed my mind, if you missed something important. This scroll confirms that your path was never a gamble. It was a divine sequence. And now that you've walked through the trials that shaped your spirit, I am placing clarity in your hands. This scroll is not for display, it's a call to movement. What's been hidden in the pages of my plans is now being spoken through the pulse of my voice, and I will make sure nothing interferes with its fulfillment. I've seen the delays. I've watched the opposition. I've heard the voices that tried to disqualify you. But none of them have the authority to revise what I've written. They don't have access to the ink of heaven. Their words are temporary, but mine are eternal. Their resistance was loud, but it was powerless. Because when I open a scroll, I also dispatch angels to carry out every instruction. I don't just reveal destiny. I release divine assistance to ensure it unfolds in its appointed time. And now, I am breathing on what was once locked. You will begin to see connections you didn't orchestrate. You will encounter people who carried pieces of this scroll's fulfillment. You will be drawn to spaces that your soul was made for, not because you planned it, but because my script is now guiding your every step. This scroll is not for admiration, it is for activation. You won't need to force doors open. What has been written will attract the environment where it is destined to manifest. Do not be afraid of the unfamiliar. This scroll includes roads you've never traveled, but I will go before you. Do not fear the weight of this revelation. I will strengthen you to walk in it. What was once blurry will now sharpen. What once felt delayed will move with supernatural momentum. And anyone who tries to speak against what I've revealed will find themselves fighting not you, but me. Because this scroll is sealed with my authority. It cannot be reversed. It cannot be altered. It cannot be stolen. It carries the fingerprint of my covenant. And now that it has been opened, everything around you must come into alignment. Heaven is not guessing, heaven is moving. And so shall you. This calling on your life was never designed to make you comfortable. It was meant to make you holy. You were not chosen to sit in safety while the world burns in confusion. You were marked to carry a divine weight that could not be revealed until the moment your soul stopped craving ease and started craving purpose. You've asked me why your path felt heavier than others, why your trials came without warning, why you were misunderstood, overlooked, resisted. It wasn't because you were forgotten, it's because you were chosen for something higher. You were being set apart, not to fit in, but to stand out. Not to blend, but to blaze. You were being called out of the crowd, not to be seen, but to be sent. There is a fire I placed within you that wouldn't ignite in ordinary conditions, and that's why I allowed extraordinary pressure. Your assignment isn't casual, it's sacred. It required refinement, detachment, and unshakable resilience. Many would have broken under what you carried silently. But instead of collapsing, you yielded. And it was that surrender, that painful, private, costly surrender, that unlocked this moment. I am now bringing to the surface what I have concealed for years. Not to showcase you, but to release through you. You are not being promoted to popularity. You are being elevated to responsibility. This is not about stage lights. This is about soul alignment. This assignment is not a position. It's a posture. One that bends before it speaks. One that listens before it moves. One that bleeds before it births. I have kept you in the shadows because what I was forming couldn't survive in shallow spaces. You were not built for entertainment. You were built for impact. And impact requires weight. You were trained in silence so that your voice would not echo opinion but release transformation. This is why I didn't let certain prayers be answered too soon. This is why the opportunities others received were delayed for you. Because I wasn't preparing you for moments, I was shaping you for movement. And movements don't come from convenience. They are born in consecration. What I've placed in your spirit will not cater to trends. It will confront systems. It will challenge norms. It will disturb comfort zones, even your own. And you must be willing to carry it without apology. The ones I assigned to release my purest messages cannot live for applause. They must live for alignment. They must be willing to say what others won't and go where others can't. That is why the fire was hotter for you. That is why the silence lasted longer. That is why the warfare was more violent. Because the mantle on your life isn't generic. It's generational. What you release will not just touch those near you. It will ripple into places you will never physically enter. And you must understand, the cost you paid in private is about to bear fruit in public, but not in the way the world expects. This is not about platforms. This is about purpose. And this holy assignment cannot be negotiated. You will either carry it with reverence, or you will find yourself unsettled in every other direction. I've waited until now to reveal it fully because only now can you carry it with the maturity it demands. No more delay. No more hiding. No more thinking. What I've spoken over your life is echoing now, and the assignment that once felt distant is about to define everything you do from this point forward. You were not called for ease. You were called to carry glory. Every time your heart broke in silence, every moment you wiped your face in the dark when no one was watching, every time your knees hit the floor while your voice cracked from pleading, I was there, collecting each tear like treasure. Not one drop fell without my awareness. Not a single cry disappeared into the night without echoing in heaven. You thought no one saw you. You believed your pain was wasted. But what you didn't know was that your suffering was becoming sacred ink. I didn't write this message with generic words. I wrote it with your agony, your surrender, your waiting. I dipped my pen in what this world ignored. You see, in my kingdom, what is dismissed by others becomes material for miracles. I used your brokenness to craft beauty that cannot be manufactured through ease. Every tear was a line. Every sob was a sentence. Every ache was a paragraph. This message isn't being delivered to you. It's being composed with you. You are not just reading what I wrote. You are part of the writing. You are not an audience. You are a co-laborer in this revelation. Because only those who have wept in the wilderness can carry the sound that awakens dead things. You didn't know your grief was becoming glory. You didn't know your mourning was building momentum. And now, what seemed like emptiness is producing oil. The kind of oil that doesn't fade, the kind that drips with weight. This message couldn't have been given to someone who hadn't endured. Because truth without tears is shallow. But what I'm pouring now flows through pain that has been surrendered, not suppressed. I know what you lost. I know who walked away. I know how long you kept going when quitting felt easier. And I was writing the whole time. Even when you felt abandoned, I was engraving every moment into the very foundation of what I'm revealing now. Others saw weakness. I saw willingness. Others saw collapse. I saw communion. And while they moved on, I leaned in closer. Because your tears weren't random. They were prophetic. They were watering something you didn't yet understand. And now, the harvest begins to emerge. Not just of what you asked for, but of what you never imagined would come from such sorrow. I am the only one who can turn agony into authority. I am the only one who can transform weeping into wisdom. I am the only one who can take the deepest groan and make it the language of transformation. The pain that nearly silenced you is now giving sound to this revelation. And that's why you feel this word in your bones, because you lived the pages it's written on. What I'm saying to you now isn't theory. It's resurrection. It's the voice you longed to hear when you were surrounded by darkness. It's the reply to the silence that haunted you. It's the confirmation that your weeping was never for nothing. You are standing in the manifestation of every night you thought would never end. You are living through the evidence that I don't ignore desperation. You prayed from a place that required everything. And now I am giving you something that cost you deeply, but will multiply eternally. Do not wish away the seasons that taught you how to weep. They have qualified you to speak with weight. You have not just been through trials. You've become a vessel that carries what only tested ones can hold. This message flows through you because it was born from you. And now, every tear is turning into testimony. You thought the waiting meant denial. You assumed the silence was me withholding. But I was shielding something that couldn't be released too early. You prayed for movement while I was anchoring your foundation. You asked for acceleration, and I answered with restraint, not to frustrate you, but to preserve what was too precious to be wasted. What I'm entrusting you with now had to be kept hidden until your soul was strong enough not to use it for validation. Every closed door, every missed opportunity, every unexpected pause, it wasn't rejection. It was preservation. I was building patience in the very places you thought I had forgotten you. You measured delay by earthly standards, but I was counting seasons by eternal alignment. Had I given you everything when you first cried out, the weight of it would have crushed you. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. There were things you needed to unlearn, voices that needed to fade, illusions that had to collapse. Because what I am giving you now couldn't survive in the presence of noise that once shaped your expectations. You were asking for timing, but I was working on your depth. You didn't know it then, but I was teaching you to stand in the tension between promise and manifestation. And in that stretching, you became someone I could trust, not just with answers, but with revelation. The delay you resented was actually the incubation of something eternal. I didn't rush it, and I didn't allow you to force it. Because when destiny is released prematurely, it gets tainted by pride, distorted by comparison, or devoured by the unprepared. I hid this message until the appetite for approval was starved, until your motives were stripped clean, until your heart no longer needed to be seen, just sent. You weren't slow, you were sacred. And now, as I pull back the curtain, you'll begin to see why nothing happened on your schedule. You'll realize that everything that didn't work was part of making room for what is now arriving. I wasn't withholding, I was weaving. Every intersection of delay was a stitch in a much larger design. You see, I'm not interested in short-term success. I'm after eternal impact. And impact requires timing that is not bound by human clocks. You cried out, "Why not now?" And I answered with silence, because this kind of glory doesn't arrive through demand. It unfolds through surrender. And now that you've surrendered, now that you've stopped trying to make it happen on your own, I can finally release what was always yours. Look around. The very people who once passed you by will now pause to ask how this opened for you so suddenly. But you'll know, it wasn't sudden, it was sovereign. You were not behind. You were being positioned. You were not left out. You were hidden for holy reasons. And what was once withheld is now being released with momentum no one will be able to stop. Every divine delay was a shield. Every pause was a strategy. Every postponement was a protection plan to keep this message and the messenger from contamination. Now, I have you where I want you, not needing the spotlight, not chasing recognition, not building your own agenda, just ready. And when I find ready hearts, I release weighty words. That's what's happening now. That's why you feel it like fire in your chest. That's why the weight suddenly makes sense. Because what I'm saying to you could not be spoken until the delay did its work. Survival was never the end goal, child. I allowed you to walk through the depths not so you could merely endure, but so you could emerge equipped. You thought making it through was the victory. But I say to you now, the true triumph begins here, when survival transforms into supernatural power. I didn't lead you through the valley to leave you with wounds, and I led you through to hand you weapons. And these aren't forged by flesh. They are birthed in my spirit. You are not stepping forward as one barely breathing. You are rising as one fully charged with the weight of heaven. You've been mistaken as fragile because they saw your scars, but what they couldn't see is the fire I buried beneath your pain. And now, that fire is awakening. You will not carry fear into this next season. You will walk with authority that darkness will not be able to mimic or manipulate. You won't have to scream to be heard. You won't have to demand to be seen. You will walk, and the atmosphere will shift. You will speak, and demons will tremble. You will declare, and what was buried will resurrect. I have clothed you in a mantle not stitched by human hands, but woven in the depths of your surrender. It's not flamboyant, but it's fierce. It's not decorative, but it's devastating to every system of oppression that tried to hold you hostage. You are my warrior, not because of your strength, but because of your yielded heart. and that heart has become a throne where my authority rests. I will no longer allow you to live like a prisoner when I've crowned you with my power. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. You are stepping into territory that will not tolerate lukewarm living. You are stepping into battles where boldness must be backed by revelation. But don't fear the weight. I have already built within you the strength to carry what others can't touch. You didn't just come out of the fire, you came out with keys. Keys that unlock freedom in places that have long been sealed. Keys that open what trauma tried to bolt shut. Keys that unlock destinies in others who were told they were too broken to be chosen. You are not just coming into authority for your own breakthrough. You are coming into it because I've assigned you to break through for others. What once felt like a heavy burden will now feel like holy force. And I will teach you how to wield it, not recklessly but righteously. No longer will you need to prove your worth through striving. The evidence will be in the weight you carry, weight that doesn't crush but creates change. You will dismantle systems not by shouting but by showing. You will confront darkness not by fear but by fire. And the reason you can now walk in this level of power is because you allowed me to refine your motives when no one else was looking. I don't pour authority into vessels chasing attention. I pour it into those who have been emptied of the need to impress. And you, my child, are now that vessel. So stop acting like a survivor and begin standing like one who's been sent. This world doesn't need more people trying to look strong. It needs the ones who have been broken, refined, and anointed in the shadows. That is who you are. You're not just walking out of your old season. You're entering into dominion. You stood at that place, the breaking point, and everything in you whispered, "This must be it." You assumed the collapse marked the conclusion. You watched familiar things fall apart, trusted paths close, and your own strength run dry. You called it failure. You called it finished. But I call it framing, because what you thought was final was actually foundational. That moment when everything unraveled, it wasn't death, it was setup. It was the preface, not the final chapter. The silence you feared was not the end of my voice. It was the pause before the volume increased. I allow certain things to unravel not to shame you, but to clear the space needed for something far greater to be established. What you called a breakdown, I labeled as breakthrough's doorway. That moment of despair you barely survived was never meant to be your tomb. It was a threshold of transformation. You were ready to close the book, but I was only just beginning to turn the real page. And now, I'm inviting you to see it through my eyes. I don't waste endings, I rewrite them. I don't abandon when things get too broken. I build from the wreckage something that never could have existed without it. You were weeping over what couldn't stay, while I was preparing what would never be taken from you again. You mourned the closing of a season that could not hold the weight of what's coming. You feared you lost your chance, your position, your place. But I never removed your purpose. The shaking was necessary because the old structure couldn't sustain the weight of your destiny. It was too small, too shallow, too fragile. So I let it fall, not to hurt you, but to make room. You looked at the ruins and saw failure. I looked at them and saw a clear canvas. I needed you to get to the end of what you could build so I could show you what I intended to construct all along. The stripping wasn't random. The silence wasn't neglect. It was me resetting everything. And now, as you begin to feel the breath of revival in your lungs again, you'll start to notice something has shifted. The pressure has become fuel. The emptiness is now space. The very place you thought would mark your expiration will become the altar of your elevation. I am resurrecting more than your hope. I am launching what you didn't even know I hid inside you. Because the real assignment wasn't buried, it was just buried under expectations that I never placed on you. I had to let some of your plans die so my promises could rise. And now, I'm stirring what the grave couldn't silence. The end was only the entrance. The collapse with the catalyst. The goodbye with the gateway. You are not stepping into restoration. You are stepping into revelation. You'll no longer define your future by what you've lost, but by what I'm activating now. This move I'm unfolding doesn't resemble what came before. It's deeper. It's weightier. It's born from the ashes. I specialize in turning endings into origins, and yours is unfolding even now. So lift your eyes, not to what was, but to what is coming. I have more for you than survival. I have strategy. I have power. I have new breath for your dry bones. What tried to bury you will testify that it failed. And what looked like your conclusion is now becoming the birthplace of something that will shake everything around you. You stood in places where you thought you belonged, only to be pushed out with no explanation. You gave your loyalty, your time, your best efforts, and still they turned their backs or quietly shut the doors you once walked through with hope. You questioned your worth. You wondered if you did something wrong. You replayed the conversations, the silence, the betrayal, over and over, looking for clues to understand why they didn't choose you. But I did. I chose you. And the rejection you experienced wasn't a reflection of your value. It was my divine routing. Because had I let you stay where they tolerated you, you would have missed where I designed you to be received. I allowed the doors to close not because you were unworthy, but because you were too worthy to be caged by their comfort zones. They couldn't see the magnitude of what I placed in you, and they weren't meant to. Some rooms are too small. Some tables lack the capacity for the mantle you carry. Some circles would have silenced what I am commanding to rise. You weren't cast aside. You were moved aside so I could align you with something that doesn't require you to shrink in order to fit. You were not excluded, you were extracted. Pulled from environments that would have buried your boldness. Removed from relationships that would have diluted your discernment. Shielded from influence that would have manipulated your mission. I saw what you didn't. Hidden motives. Quiet jealousy. Subtle dishonor. And I removed you before it could infect what I was building inside you. You cried over exits, but I rejoiced over escapes. You wept for what left, but I celebrated what I rescued you from. This pain you carry from being cast aside is actually proof of my protection. I couldn't let you stay where you were no longer growing. I couldn't allow you to be validated by people whose vision was too limited to recognize what I'm releasing through you. I let them misunderstand you so they wouldn't hold you hostage. I let them mislabel you so you wouldn't remain bound to their low expectations. And now, you're stepping into the space that was carved by those very moments. The rejection was the release. It was me saying, this one doesn't belong here anymore. Because I'm placing you in divine territory, and what I'm about to do requires your full attention, not your desperation to be accepted. You don't need to prove anything to the ones who walked away. You don't need to chase closure from people who were never called to carry your future. Stop replaying their silence like a verdict. I've already spoken a better word. I've already written a different ending. They didn't see the fullness of you, and that's okay. Because I'm sending people who will. I'm placing you in spaces where your presence won't be a threat, it'll be a confirmation. Where your voice will be minimized, it'll be invited. Where your anointing won't need explanation, it'll be honored. But I couldn't take you there until I pulled you out from what was familiar. Yes, you heard. Yes, you questioned everything. But now, watch what I do with the pain they caused and the space they left. I will build something unshakable with what they discarded. I will raise you in the very areas they tried to keep you buried. This rejection was never about loss. It was about launch. And now, the repositioning is complete. The shifting is done. You're standing where you were always meant to be, not overlooked, but aligned. There were people you trusted with your secrets, your dreams, your vulnerabilities, and then one by one, they drifted away or were suddenly pulled from your life. You didn't understand it then. You grieved those exits. You questioned their absence. You even blamed yourself for their silence. But I was behind the separation. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. You see, what I've placed inside you cannot survive the atmosphere of confusion, compromise, or shallow counsel. The vision I'm unveiling now required clean air. I had to quiet the background noise so you could hear me without distortion. Some voices were good, but they weren't God sent for this dimension of your journey. They spoke from their level of understanding, their limited insight, their filtered perception, and if you continued to drink from their wells, the living water I'm now pouring would have been contaminated. I saw what you couldn't. I saw how their opinions began to shape your confidence more than my promises. I saw how their advice diluted your discernment. I saw how their subtle control masked itself as concern. And I loved you too much to let their influence override my voice. So I removed them, not to isolate you, but to insulate what I'm about to birth through you. This removal wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Because what I'm releasing now doesn't need validation. It needs purity. The kind of purity that only flows in spaces unpolluted by voices that echo fear, limitation, or religion. I'm not just giving you revelation, I'm giving you responsibility. And that requires a weight that can't be carried in environments where compromise is tolerated. I cut ties to protect the blueprint. I severed connections to preserve the assignment. And yes, it felt like abandonment, but it was me positioning you for alignment. Not everyone was meant to walk into this next realm with you. Some were seasonal scaffolding, they supported for a time, but now the structure is strong enough to stand without them. Others were distractions dressed as destiny, sent to keep you entangled in emotional confusion. But I've cleared the room, and what remains now is holy ground. You've been stripped of voices that once guided you, and now you feel the silence, not as loneliness, but as sacred space. Because in this silence, my voice grows louder. In this emptiness, revelation takes root. And in this stillness, my presence becomes undeniable. You'll no longer be swayed by suggestions, you'll be grounded by my instruction. You'll no longer seek permission, you'll walk in conviction. And those who were removed, don't chase them. Don't mourn them. Bless them, but don't bring them back in. If they had remained, they would have spoken doubt over what I'm about to manifest. If they had stayed, they would have drained what I'm about to pour. This mantle is not casual, it's costly, and I only entrust it to those who allow me to purify the company they keep. I'm raising your standard, not because you're better, but because you're carrying something heavier now. You must protect your ear gates, guard your atmosphere, defend the anointed. Because what I've put in you will begin to draw attention, and not all attention comes with honor. But don't worry, I've already gone ahead. I've already prepared the voices who will pour, not poison. I've ordained alignments that will sharpen, not shadow. I'm surrounding you with those who don't compete, but cover. And when they appear, you will know, not by their charm, but by the peace they carry. For now, to embrace the quiet. This silence is sacred, and what I whisper here will shape everything you walk into next. I did not bring you this far to offer watered-down reassurance or shallow encouragement that fades by morning. I'm not whispering empty phrases to soothe your emotions temporarily. I am not releasing vague promises to distract you from pain. I have not come bearing generic words. I've come with fire, the kind that doesn't just warm, but transforms. The kind that burns away what no longer belongs. The kind that ignites purpose so deep within you that it cannot be put out by disappointment, fear, or resistance. You heard enough comforting lies. Now it's time for liberating truth. You settled long enough under words that made you feel better but never made you braver. I am not interested in keeping you comfortable. I am here to awaken the roar that's been buried under your survival. I didn't clothe you in righteousness so you could live in silence. I filled you with my spirit so you could release what the world cannot comprehend. This is not the time for playing it safe. This is not the hour for blending in. I'm igniting something dangerous, not to your health, but to every structure of darkness that's tried to bind you. This is the fire that calls sleeping warriors into action. This is the blaze that exposes every compromise you once justified. I'm not lighting a candle. I'm starting an inferno in your spirit that will not be silenced by convenience. This isn't motivational talk. This is heaven's summons. I'm not talking to your feelings, I'm talking to your spirit, the part of you that knows it was made for more, the part of you that cannot settle anymore, the part of you that's tired of playing small to make others feel secure. I'm confronting the fear that kept you stuck. I'm challenging the complacency that whispered, "You're fine right here." No, you're not fine, you're called. And calling doesn't bow to comfort. You weren't born to blend, you were birthed to blaze. And the only way to carry the fire I'm releasing is to let me consume what you've used to stay safe. I will not tolerate lukewarm anymore. I will not let you hold hands with fear while trying to walk in faith. The fire I'm igniting will refine your relationships, purify your motives, expose hidden wounds, and resurrect boldness that religion tried to kill. This is not cruelty. This is commissioning. You cried out for my presence. This is how it comes. Not always soft, not always gentle, but always holy, always real. You don't need another emotional high. You need to burn with clarity. And that's what I'm doing now, striking the match deep in your core, setting ablaze every dormant place that's been waiting for activation. You've fasted, you've wept, you've waited, and now I'm igniting. But hear me, this fire will require separation. Some will not understand. Some will mislabel your passion. But I didn't call you to be understood. I called you to be unstoppable. Let them talk. Let them speculate. As long as you burn, you are doing what I've anointed you to do. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs voices that carry fire. And that is what you're becoming. Not a flicker. Not a spark. A blazing torch in my hand. I will speak through your obedience, move through your purity, and roar through your surrender. And when people encounter you, they won't just feel good, they'll feel God. They won't just be moved, they'll be marked. Because you don't carry surface comfort anymore. You carry sacred fire. This message is not wrapped in tradition or shaped by systems that seek control over communion. I'm not speaking through the filters of human ceremony or the limitations of inherited routines that lost their power long ago. What I'm saying now will offend minds that have become addicted to structure but untouched by presence. I am not bound to the scripts written by religious culture. I don't move according to the comfort of rituals that repeat but never release. What I'm about to unfold isn't going to fit in their boxes. It will confront the boxes themselves. The ones who only know me through routine will feel unsettled by the rawness of my truth. I'm not speaking in rehearsed lines today. I'm breaking open the sound of real revelation. And revelation always disrupts those who prefer control over encounter. The religious spirit has always feared fresh fire because it can't be managed, it can't be manipulated, and it can't be contained. That's why it labels anything unexplainable as rebellion. That's why it silences what it can't understand. And that's why many won't receive what I'm releasing into you. Not because it's false, but because it threatens what's familiar. I didn't call you to mimic what's been done. I called you to carry what's never been carried. And what I've placed in you will not bow to outdated molds that I never created. I'm pouring wine that demands a new vessel. I'm releasing a sound that cannot flow through the pipes of performance. You've wondered why you always felt out of place in spaces that claimed my name but resisted my power. It's because I was never welcome there, only the version of me they could manage. But what I'm doing through you cannot be tamed. It cannot be polished for religious approval. It cannot be made palatable for those who have built their identity on routine instead of relationship. The boldness I'm igniting in you will feel like rebellion to those who have mistaken comfort for holiness. They will question your methods because they don't recognize your mandate. They will resist your movement because it doesn't follow their model. But do not be discouraged by their disapproval. It's confirmation. Because what you carry isn't meant to affirm a system. It's meant to awaken a generation. You won't speak with fluff. You'll speak with fire. You won't settle for gatherings that sing, but never transform. You won't blend into communities that honor tradition, but ignore transformation. I'm raising your voice to pierce through the noise of religion and call forth hearts that are desperate for me, not just knowledge about me. This path will not be popular, but it will be powerful. You weren't created to maintain old structures. You were sent to host my presence. And when my presence comes, everything dead must be exposed. Everything fake must fall. Everything powerless must bow. I will give you wisdom to move with precision and love to speak with purity, but do not compromise to make them comfortable. You've been called to disturb the systems that domesticated me. You've been chosen to release freedom where formulas once reigned. You carry something that will irritate the religious spirit but liberate the hungry. Don't water it down. Don't apologize for it. Let the revelation burn through you. Let it offend every idol of performance. Let it break every altar of routine. Let it call people back to the place of trembling, the place of awe, the place where they don't just sing about me, they encounter me. That's what you're carrying. That's what they'll feel. And that's why they'll either run away or fall on their knees. I'm not speaking this to entertain the masses or to feed the curiosity of casual listeners. This word is for the ones who didn't flinch when it got quiet, the ones who stayed faithful when the lights went out, who held on to my name when it didn't feel popular, who still burned when everything around them went cold. I'm talking to those who did follow the noise. They followed the whisper. The ones who didn't need signs to remain loyal. The ones who clung to me without applause, without confirmation, without evidence. The ones who weren't impressed by trends but were anchored by truth. You, the remnant. The ones who didn't trade authenticity for attention. I saw you. While others chased platforms, you chose my presence. While they ran to be seen, you ran to the secret place. When they built for crowds, you built an altar. And because of that, I'm giving you access to something I've reserved for only a few. Not because you were perfect, but because you were persistent. You didn't walk away when it hurt. You didn't abandon me when prayers seemed unanswered. You remained, not because it was easy, but because you knew I was still worthy even when it was hard. And now, that posture is drawing a word from my throne room that has not been released to the many, only to the loyal. This remnant doesn't look loud, but their authority is thunder in the spirit. They don't demand titles, they carry weight that cannot be faked. They don't chase crowds, they attract heaven. They've been through fire, betrayal, and silence, yet they never bowed to bitterness. They could have become cynical, but instead they became refined. And that's why this message is for them. For you. Because what I'm releasing next must land in hearts that won't mishandle it. The crowd gathers for sensation. The remnant shows up for impartation. And I will not pour this oil into containers that have cracks of compromise. I'm looking for those who will protect what I give, not exploit it. And I found that in you. You are part of a company I've been raising in the shadows, those trained in the quiet, matured through resistance, fed by my voice alone. You were misunderstood, sometimes even mocked, but I kept you close while I was preparing something holy. I had to keep this hidden, because the wrong ears would have distorted it. But you didn't ask for attention, you asked for me. You didn't demand recognition, you sought revelation, and I will honor that. I will pour into your spirit what others never had the patience to receive. I will ignite in you what could never be taught, only caught. This is not a general call. This is a specific commission. The time of being hidden is shifting. The ones who stayed will now be sent. The ones who remained rooted during storms will now carry the message that parts the clouds. You won't have to fight to be heard. I will send the hungry to your fire. I will cause the thirsty to find your well. But never forget, this isn't about numbers. It's about purity. This isn't for popularity. It's for legacy. What I'm entrusting to you is not entertainment. It's encounter. And the reason I've waited until now to release it is because now, you're ready to carry it without turning it into a performance. You stayed when others sprinted. You dug deep when others skimmed the surface. And now I say, it's your time. The reward of the remnant is revelation. And that revelation is unfolding now. This mark on your life was not placed by men, not earned through accolades, and not born from ambition. It was written in light before you ever took your first breath. While others were clothed in approval from the world, I wrapped you in something eternal. My glory. You didn't ask for it. You didn't strive for it. But I assigned it to you because I saw beyond your frailty and into your surrender. This glory is not surface-level shine. It is not for display. It is not temporary emotion. It is the weight of my presence resting on your life, not just in moments of worship, but in every decision, every word, every step you take. That's why things have always felt different for you. You tried to walk like others, but the weight you carried wouldn't let you move like them. You tried to hide your fire, but it kept rising when you thought it had died. You tried to blend into the crowd, but even in silence, heaven still echoed through you. You have been marked, and that mark cannot be removed, reversed, or replicated. I placed it there as a sign that you belong to me. And now, the season of concealment is breaking open. I am lifting the veil. I am unveiling what I concealed. Not to promote you, but to display what obedience produces in hidden places. You have been processed in pain, and now you will be revealed in power. This unveiling will not be flashy. It will be undeniable. It will not beg for attention. It will command the atmosphere. When you walk into rooms, something will shift, not because of charisma, but because of consecration. What I placed on you is not man-made. It is not the result of talent or technique. It is the evidence of my presence resting on someone who allowed me to shape them in silence. And this unveiling will come with acceleration. Things that were stuck will suddenly open. What was overlooked will now be recognized. Not because you changed him, but because it is now time for what I marked to be seen. I've hidden you long enough to protect what was forming. But now the formation is complete, and the manifestation must follow. You will begin to notice favor that you didn't seek. You'll feel the eyes of those trying to figure out where this weight came from, and you will know it wasn't earned in public. It was cultivated in private. What they see now is only the surface of what I've been doing in secret. You are not being launched. You're being revealed. This is not your rise. This is my reflection through you. The unveiling isn't about fame. It's about fruit. And the fruit will bear witness to the process you never posted about. The glory that surrounds you now is not light. It is fire. It will refine everything you touch. It will draw the hungry and disturb the religious. But do not shrink from it. Do not apologize for it. I gave it to you not to boast, but to break chains. Not to impress, but to awaken. I will not let what I've marked remain hidden any longer. You are the answer to cries others have been making in secret. You are the evidence of my faithfulness in seasons where others thought I was silent. And now, as I unveil what I've hidden, you must walk with reverence. You must carry this glory with integrity. Because what I'm releasing through you will not only shift atmospheres, it will shift legacies. You have been marked. And now, the world will see what heaven already knew. I placed myself upon you. There have been voices, habits, patterns, and environments that subtly convinced you to doubt your belonging. They didn't always speak loudly, but their effect was deep, pushing you to question whether I truly called you, whether I was really with you, whether you were truly chosen. These influences wrapped themselves around your identity, whispering suggestions that made you second-guess my promises and shrink back from your divine assignment. And now, I am stepping into that space with finality. I am not gently nudging anymore. I am severing. I am separating you with urgency from everything, everyone, and every mindset that has become a parasite to your purpose. Because the season you are walking into demands clarity, and clarity requires disconnection from confusion. I will no longer let your spirit stay entangled with what manipulates your peace and muddies your confidence in me. It's over. The ties that were allowed in your life when you were still learning must now be broken as you begin to lead. This calling is too weighty to share space with voices that don't know who you are in me. I'm not removing people out of cruelty. I'm removing what contradicts your covenant. Some of these attachments have masqueraded as comfort, but they've kept you tethered to insecurity. Others seemed harmless, but have been slowly poisoning your discernment. I watched how certain conversations drained you. I watched how you molded yourself to be accepted by people who didn't even carry the capacity to see you. And I remained quiet until now. Because now, you're ready to walk in full truth, and truth cannot share room with distortion. I'm shutting the doors you left cracked open. I'm silencing voices that speak with double tongues. I'm exposing connections that smile but sow seeds of doubt behind closed doors. You may feel the tension as I separate, but do not resist it. Trust the discomfort. Trust the distancing. This is holy. I am reclaiming every inch of you that was handed out for the sake of belonging. I'm calling you back into full alignment. Not halfway, not almost, but total agreement with who I say you are. You are mine. And anything that has made you question that must go. This separation is sacred, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. I didn't call you to blend. I called you to burn. And the fire I've placed inside you must be protected. You don't owe explanations for your separation. You owe me your obedience. You don't have to defend what I'm detaching. What I remove is not punishment, it's precision. I am clearing the static so you can hear me without interference. I'm eliminating false mirrors so you stop seeing yourself through their distortions. I'm surrounding you with what reflects your calling, not what challenges your identity. There is no more room for half-truths. No more room for tolerated dysfunction. No more space for tolerated dishonor. You've asked me for more. Now I'm making room. And making room requires releasing what no longer fits the next version of you I'm unveiling. Don't cling to what comforted you during survival. It cannot sustain you in revival. Let go. And watch what I send in place of what I remove. It will not only affirm who you are, it will honor what I've placed in you. This separation is me saying, you are mine. And I won't let anything confuse that ever again. You walked through seasons wondering if there was anything extraordinary inside you at all. You looked at others and saw progress, visibility, celebration, while you wrestled with the quiet question that haunted your reflection, was I even meant for anything more? You questioned the delay. You questioned the silence. You wondered why, no matter how much you gave, something in you still felt buried. But what you thought was abandonment was strategy. I did not misplace what I gave you. I concealed it for a holy purpose. I wrapped your greatness in mystery to protect it from being used before it was ready. I didn't let you see all that was in you, not because you weren't worthy of it, but because you weren't yet strong enough to carry the weight that comes with it. I shielded your potential from the eyes of those who would have tried to shape it to fit their preferences. I covered the glory within you so that no one would try to hijack what heaven intended to unfold in due time. You may have doubted yourself, but I never did. I knew exactly what I placed inside your spirit. I formed it with precision, and I sealed it with intention. I was never confused about your assignment. I was never hesitant about your capacity. But I allowed you to walk through the unknown so you would learn to lean on me, not just your own gifting. If I had revealed your full calling too soon, you might have built your identity around performance instead of presence. But now, after the pruning, after the refining, after the long road of character over charisma, you are ready to uncover what's been stored deep inside you. No more wondering. No more comparing. No more assuming that you missed your moment. Your moment is rising now, not because it's finally coming, but because you are finally ready to handle it. The reason you feel such an unusual stirring in your spirit is because what was once hidden is starting to surface. Dreams you laid to rest are moving again. Ideas you once ignored are coming alive with new breath. You are not imagining it. I am resurrecting what I hid. and you will begin to see glimpses of what you carry not through ambition, but through obedience. You'll open your mouth and words will come forth that you didn't even know you had. You will step into rooms and feel a pull you cannot explain. Doors will respond not to your effort, but to what I've placed inside you that is finally beginning to shine through. It was never lost. It was never wasted. It was preserved. Because what I planted in you is sacred. I wasn't protecting it from you, I was protecting you through it. So now, let go of the false conclusion that said you missed it. Let go of the lie that told you you were overlooked. I saw you. I selected you. And now I am unveiling the very thing that made you feel set apart without knowing why. You thought your quiet seasons were evidence of insignificance. But I was quietly shaping you for significance that cannot be denied. The curtain is lifting. The seed is breaking open. The voice that told you you were unqualified has been silenced by the authority of my yes. I never forgot what I placed in you. And now, neither will you. You spent too many moments trying to articulate things to people who were never meant to understand you. You explained your heart, your intentions, your process, and your obedience, hoping they would see what I already confirmed. You defended your quiet seasons, justified your decisions, and tried to convince others that my hand was still upon you, even when nothing visible proved it. But that chapter ends now. I'm lifting you from the place of proving and placing you in the flow of power. The days of trying to explain what I'm doing in you are finished, because now I will demonstrate it myself. My presence will become your evidence. My power will speak louder than your explanations ever could. Where words failed, my hand will move. Where understanding fell short, results will rise. I am not asking you to continue trying to gain agreement from those who cannot discern what you carry. The fruit I'm about to produce through your life will silence every doubt. You will not have to respond to questions designed to challenge your authenticity. I will respond through glory. You are not entering into a season of explanation. You're stepping into a season of manifestation. And manifestation doesn't argue. It reveals. You won't have to force anything. You won't have to over-explain your silence, your shifts, your separations. My spirit will bear witness through outcomes that man cannot manufacture. I will begin to show through your life what could never be conveyed in conversations. This is how I distinguish those who have waited well. I do not reward them with applause, I clothe them in authority. I give them results that cannot be debated. And you will carry that kind of clarity. I am placing a visible mark on you that cannot be denied. Where confusion once surrounded your journey, I will establish clarity through what I produce in and through you. People who once questioned your process will be convicted by your fruit. Environments that once ignored you will be impacted by your overflow. You will not need to make noise, your movement will echo. I'm turning your silence into signals that shake the earth. You are not called to convince, you are called to carry. And now, I'm placing weight on your words. I'm placing impact behind your steps. I'm placing supernatural signs along your path that validate what I've spoken in secret. The spotlight isn't needed. The performance isn't required. Because when I demonstrate through someone fully yielded, there's no room for boasting, only worship. I will release solutions through your hands. I will drop wisdom into your spirit that confounds the wise. I will perform the kind of breakthroughs through your life that cause others to encounter me without you needing to say a thing. You are entering a realm where fruit speaks for itself. And I've been preparing the ground for this moment. That's why I told you to stay quiet when you were attacked. That's why I told you not to respond when you were misjudged. That's why I asked you to walk away from platforms that tried to manipulate your gift. Because I didn't call you to be understood. I called you to be an instrument. And now that your heart is clear, I can move without obstruction. So release the burden of explanation. Let go of the need to be approved by human filters. I am your validation. I am your witness. I am your defense. And what I am about to display through your life will make it undeniable. You've been with me. What the world labeled as your flaw, I have identified as the very place my glory will rest. You spent years trying to hide your fragile places, ashamed of the struggle, worn down by the things that wouldn't move no matter how hard you prayed. You were taught to suppress the areas you didn't have strength in, to cover the cracks, to appear put together so others would accept you. But I have never been after your perfection. I've been waiting for your surrender. Because my power isn't magnified in your strongest hour, it's perfected in your weakness. The places you cried about in secret are about to become stages for my glory. I'm not ashamed of your struggles. I don't flinch at your humanity. In fact, I'm drawn to it. While others walked away when you stumbled, I stepped closer. While you buried your weakness beneath shame, I was marking that very spot as the ground for a miracle. You thought your limitations would disqualify you. You thought the wounds made you unworthy. But now you will see what I've always known. I don't need your strength to do the impossible. I need your permission to show up in the places where you ran out of options. You've tried to heal it without me. You've tried to fix it in your own power. But I am not asking you to solve it. I'm asking you to hand it to me. Because that weakness is not the end. It's the beginning of something supernatural. When you stop resisting your need and start inviting my presence into it, something sacred happens. The place you used to despise becomes a portal for my presence. The burden you used to carry alone becomes the very space where I pour oil others will be healed by. I'm not interested in you pretending anymore. I'm not impressed by your ability to hold it all together. I'm moved by your willingness to let me hold what you've been hiding. Your weakness is not a liability. It's an invitation. And I am answering it now. I will use your story, not just the highlights, but the places you almost gave up. I will speak through your process, not the filtered version, but the raw, vulnerable truth. You won't have to manufacture power. It will flow from the honesty of your journey. You'll no longer speak from theory, you'll speak from experience. And when others hear you, they won't hear pride, they'll feel presence. They'll recognize that what came through you could never have been done by human strength. That's the testimony I'm raising in you. One that silences the voice of performance and raises the volume of grace. They won't look at your life and say, "Look what they did." They'll fall to their knees and say, "Only God could have done this." Because the impact that's about to come from your surrendered weakness will break chains, not just for you, but for everyone who ever thought they had to be perfect to be used. You are my chosen vessel, not despite your weakness, but because you finally allowed me to enter it. And from this point forward, what used to weigh you down will become the very thing I use to lift others up. What once made you feel broken will now become the bridge others walk across into freedom. I will take the softest, most bruised part of you and cause rivers of healing to flow from it. So don't hide it anymore. Don't apologize for the process. Just keep your heart open, because your weakness is about to speak louder than your strength ever could. That part of you that you tried to keep tucked away, the chapter you didn't want to talk about, the version of yourself you buried in shame. I'm reaching into that exact place now. You've spent so much energy managing the image others see, protecting yourself from judgment, even convincing yourself that the broken pieces disqualified you. But I was never afraid of that version of you. I never turned away from your lowest point. In fact, I was closest when you were most undone. And now, I'm not just healing that space, I'm turning it into a stage for my glory. The very thing you've begged me to erase is the place I'm choosing to speak through. I do not waste wounds. I do not avoid mess. I do not look for the polished. I look for the yielded. I will make a spectacle of my mercy through the scars you once hid. They won't just remind you of what hurt. They will remind others of who heals. I'm flipping the script. The thing you were most ashamed of is becoming the very evidence that I still raise the dead, that I still restore what was stolen, that I still redeem what was despised. You thought your failure marked the end. I saw it as material for miracles. I will speak louder through your weakness than I ever could through your perfection. And what the world deemed a liability, I call a launching pad. Don't you see? This is how I move. I take what's dismissed and place it center stage. I take what's mocked and I magnify it with grace. I do not need you to hide anymore. What once silenced you will now become your song. And when you speak, it won't be with the voice of someone trying to impress. It will be the sound of someone who has encountered real mercy. My mercy that didn't just forgive, but redefine. My mercy that didn't just patch up. It rebuilt you into something new. The people around you may remember who you used to be, but I am putting such a bold light on your transformation that even they will be forced to say, only God could have done this. What you tried to escape will become a testimony too loud to ignore. I'm not just restoring your dignity. I'm amplifying the message hidden in your history. And those who come across your path will not meet someone rehearsing religion. They will meet someone radiating the reality of a God who stepped into their lowest and turned it into a platform of deliverance. Don't resist the urge to share what you lived through. I'm assigning you to people who are secretly drowning in the same depths you once escaped. They don't need your perfection. They need your permission to believe they can be restored too. And your story, that exact chapter you avoided, will unlock their healing. I don't want the edited version. I want the honest one. Because the honest version is where my power explodes. And you don't need to fear rejection anymore, because I've already accepted you completely. I've already marked you as mine. And now I'm using you, every part, every page, every scar, to echo my redemption to those who thought they were beyond rescue. So open your mouth. Tell the truth. Show the wounds. Because I'm turning the hidden places into holy ground. And what once disqualified you in man's eyes will now qualify you to carry something sacred that no one can deny. I am not speaking now to affirm what others failed to recognize. I'm not pouring this into you so you can feel important, noticed, or celebrated by people. This isn't a confirmation of status. This is a commissioning for purpose. What you're receiving in this moment is not about being seen. It's about being sent. I didn't call you to be admired. I called you to advance what heaven is doing on the earth. Too often, my children confuse my voice with applause, as though the measure of their assignment is based on how many understand or celebrate them. But I am not speaking to stroke your ego. I am speaking to stir your spirit. What I am doing in you is not cosmetic. It's catalytic. It doesn't stop at awareness. It drives you into movement. I have not been shaping you just so you can say, I've heard from God. I've been preparing you so that when I speak, you respond with obedience that rewrites atmospheres. This message wasn't meant to sit in journals. It's meant to shift cities. I'm unlocking what I placed inside you so you will act. Not so you will wait for more affirmation. You don't need another sign to believe you are called. You don't need another confirmation to take the next step. I have spoken. And my word doesn't return void. It demands a response. You've prayed to be used, and now I'm answering not with comfort, but with assignment. This is your moment of release. I'm putting you into motion, not for reaction, but for real impact. I didn't whisper into your spirit so you could feel special. I did it to awaken the fire that's been lying dormant for far too long. You've been fed. You've been filled. You've been formed. Now you must be faithful with what I've entrusted to you. Don't look to your left or right for permission. Don't wait for someone else to validate what I've already anointed. I've already approved you. I've already equipped you. The oil has already been poured, and now I'm demanding a return. The world doesn't need another voice echoing what's already been said. It needs carriers of the fresh fire I've poured into the ones who didn't flinch when no one clapped. You're not being raised up to echo noise, you're being released to carry clarity. What I spoke in secret must now be walked out in full view. But don't mistake visibility for validation. Just because people begin to notice doesn't mean you're more called. It just means your time of hiding has ended. And with visibility comes responsibility. I will not allow what I gave you to stay in idle mode. This isn't the season to pine endlessly. It's the season to act. To build. To speak. To go. To lay your hands on what I told you to touch and trust that I will complete what I began. You are not waiting on me. I'm waiting on your obedience. You've been marked not for recognition but for release. And when you step out, you'll realize the power wasn't in what others thought about you. The power was in your yes. This message is not to confirm your popularity. It's to stir your commissioning. And the only way to honor it is to move. You've been looking around for signs, for confirmation, for someone to say, "Now you're ready," as if you needed a human voice to activate what I already declared before your first breath. But today, I silence every voice of hesitation and dismantle every layer of insecurity, because I, the Lord, have spoken. Your time of asking if you're allowed to step forward is over. You don't need to earn an invitation to the place I've already seated you in. What's happening now isn't promotion by man, it's elevation by heaven. This rise wasn't voted on. It was written into eternity. No committee approved it. No system endorsed it. I declared it, and that's what makes it final. I'm not waiting for people to agree with what I've done in you. I don't need crowds to endorse the fire I've placed within your bones. I don't need religious traditions to validate the mantle resting on your shoulders. What I've opened in the Spirit cannot be blocked by earthly resistance. You've been seeking access where I already gave authority. Stop asking for permission to walk where I've already told you to run. You don't need to second guess anymore. The chains that kept you doubting are being broken even now, not by force, but by truth. The truth is, you've already been released. You've already been appointed. You've already been confirmed by the voice that reigns above every throne and title on this earth. The door you've been knocking on is now swinging wide. But not because someone finally noticed your worth. Because I'm the one who called you out of hiding. You were never waiting on opportunity. Opportunity was waiting on your obedience. You're not entering into rooms to prove yourself. You're stepping into the space I prepared for you when you were still in the fire, still in the cave, still in the place where no one was watching. You thought the elevation would come with applause, but I do things differently. I lift the ones who worshipped in the wilderness. I raise the ones who chose faith when everything looked forgotten. That's why this moment isn't just an arrival. It's a revealing. I'm unveiling what I built in silence. I'm showcasing what I refined in shadows. You will rise, not in arrogance, not in striving, but in assurance. Assurance that you belong where I send you. Assurance that you're equipped for the weight I'm handing you. Assurance that you are walking in divine alignment, not human ambition. Let this settle deep in your spirit. You don't have to beg to be seen. I see you. You don't have to campaign to be chosen. I chose you. You don't have to prove your identity. I stamped it with glory. So now, lift your head. Stand with confidence. The hesitation ends here. The smallness ends here. The timid posture ends here. You have been given clearance from heaven's courts to step fully into what I've whispered over you since the beginning. And nothing, no voice, no delay, no opinion, no mistake, can reverse what I've confirmed in the Spirit. You're not waiting to be lifted. You've already been raised. Now walk like it. Move like it. Declare like it. Because I've already made it so, amen.